On today's show, the Dallas Mavericks are reportedly interested in Tobias Harris and Jerami Grant. Should the Mavs be interested in either of them? Split the difference on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
Mavericks, NBA champions. Bang! It's good, and the Mavericks have won the game.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Loyalty never fades away.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being part of the show, making Locked On Mavs your first listen today. With the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day, leave a 5-star review on any podcast platform, like the video on YouTube, and comment anything below. Let me know in the comment section, Jerami Grant or Tobias Harris? Let's say you're able to get one or the other. Who would you rather have? Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, as playoffs wind down, finals are done, sports starts stopping, but you still got WNBA, all kinds of stuff. FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. And joining me from 105.3 The Fan, the great Reg Adetula. What you got for me?
Not the great. I realize why so many people that cover these sports have JDs, because trying to understand the CBA is whooping my keister.
It is difficult. It takes the wind out of the sails on a lot of conversations and things.
Yeah.
It's much more fun to just be like, what about this guy? What about this guy? What about this guy? What about this guy? And then Reg and I were like starting to do math before we started recording this. Oh no.
Oh boy.
Don't make me do that. That this DVU education didn't train me to do maths like that.
Shout out to UTA. Yep, we out here.
We'll talk about all the rumors surrounding the Dallas Mavericks. We'll talk about Bronny James with Reggie, see what he thinks about that. We'll talk about Nico Harrison's rumors and that Mark Stein's rumors that Tim Hardaway Jr. is going to be traded, that Dereck Jr. is a priority. Nico Harrison at a press conference. We'll talk about some of the comments he made about that. What does that tell us about how the Mavs are going to build their team this summer? What are priorities? What do we think is going to happen? But we got to start here because there were some rumors over the weekend about a couple of players. One of them, Tobias Harris. We'll get to him in a little bit. But another one, Jerami Grant. Ian Begley of SNY reports that teams have tons of conversation about potential trades at this point in the league calendar. Several teams, including the Dallas Mavericks, have checked in on Jerami Grant's situation in Portland. Jerami Grant is 30. He's entering the second year of a 5-year, $160 million deal, which sounds insane, but we'll tell you how it's a little more palatable. 4-year deal, so he's got 4 years left, basically. About $30 million next year, 32 the year after that, 34 the year after that, and 36 player option the year after that. The deal starts at 21% of the cap, and it's projected to be about 19% by the end. But we also think the cap's going to go up even more than projections are. And so this deal becomes a little bit more palatable. If you just look at this of Jerami Grant's deal on the front, and you go, it's too much money, can't do it. I don't want that. I don't want that guy on the team. Then hear me out on this. The money is not going to look as bad right now as it does right now. I think that the percentage is going down projectedly, and it will go down even more. There's another thing I saw about Jerami Grant is that he made decisions to go to Detroit and to go to Portland, and no. He wanted to make decisions because he wanted to get more shots and all that. He did the Kuzma thing, basically, that Kuzma did during the trade deadline, where he goes, well, I don't want to go to a winning team. I want to stay here and hang out and get shots and have fun. That's not true. He signed in Portland. The only decision he made was he signed in Portland when Dame was still there. And so I think that, and he got a ton of money for it, and obviously, which is the big deal we're talking about now. The thing about Jerami Grant, he's played on some winning teams. He played with Denver in 2020. He played with OKC. He went to the playoffs with them 3 times. And he's now played in Portland where they've definitely struggled and there. He's really good 3-point shooter. He has played some good defense with the Nuggets, but he has not played good defense since then, like anywhere close to that.
In places where they don't play defense anyway.
Initial thoughts on Jerami Grant, just as the player. Like, let's say the Mavs could come up with some kind of a deal, and we'll talk about some potentials, but just his fit, player that he is, and all that.
I mean, he fits the profile of one of the players that we were talking about, that the Mavs that we learned from this NBA Finals and this playoff run. he's a dude who can kind of get his own. It's one of the reasons why he was paid as such. And as you mentioned, like the opportunity to go to certain places to give him and expand his horizon and give him an opportunity to try and grow as a player. I think that he's found that cap, that ceiling. And, you know, for any player that has that, like that drive within them to try and find what that ceiling is, it feels like we might have found that on his play. He's not a guy who you can be foundational to but he can be super impactful. And this, I mean, offensively, he has the capability of playing defense. And if there's one thing that you can give Jason Kidd and his staff for, he's drawn the defense out of pretty much everybody that's come through. Shout out to Christian Wood. But like everybody, they've drawn out a level of defense that they've been capable of. And for Jerami Grant, like you said, we've seen it. We've seen the baseline that's possible. And the offense is there, knocking down shots, getting to his own shot to some degree. Like you don't want that as a primary option, but as a tertiary one,
sure,
I like it, right? And so with that being the case, the prohibitive part is not his game. His game does seem to fit what you're looking for. The prohibitive part is making sure that that number fits in the way that you want it to, and the ability to acquire him works.
That's the thing. That's the thing of what you just said is that his number, if you're immediately look at the price tag and go, oh, $30 million, that's not palatable. The Mavs cannot do that. There's no way. Yes, the number goes down, but it is a lot. And so you have to hope that player that you're bringing in, that's that number, fixes some things that you do. What could Jerami Grant possibly fix? He shot 38% on about 5 threes a game since 2018. It's a really good three-point shooter, really great corner three-point shooter. The Mavs could stick him in the corner. He'd be much better than what Dereck Jones Jr. was, or even what PJ Washington was in the playoffs. That's something that we definitely know. We've seen him be good in a team concept defensively, where he was a guy for Denver in 2020 that was out there guarding some of the best players. We've seen, didn't he guard LeBron in why do I remember him guarding LeBron at one point? But he's been that type of guy where it was Jokic, Murray, and then it was Jerami Grant averaging 34 minutes a game in the playoffs for them, playing that role. Now he's played since then in Detroit and Portland, has not had that opportunity. We haven't seen him in a playoff context, and haven't even seen him with even a decent team really since then. And so we don't really know what he would look like. And like you said, he can get his own shot a little bit, which kind of does help. He can at least attack off the dribble and attack closeouts and do some of the things that PJ and Dereck Jones Jr. were doing in the playoffs. He would have to replace Dereck Jones Jr. because I don't think the Mavs could bring him in and then also figure out a way to sign Dereck Jones Jr. back unless he signed for a lot less than I'm expecting. So that could happen. There is some big questions with him for sure if you went after a Jerami Grant. One of the things that's interesting to me though, so you could do a Tim Hardaway and Josh Green for Jerami Grant, and like that could work. Maybe you add one more contract in there. What you can also do is Matisse Thybulle, who is desperately interested, desperately wants to be a Maverick. Signed an offer sheet with them last summer. Matisse Thybulle, like a 6'6", 6'5", wing, all defensive guy at one point. He could be your replacement for Dereck Jones Jr. if you're going to lose him. Let's say you can do a Tim Hardaway, Josh Green, Maxey for Grant and Thybulle. You could do that. Throw in all the second-round picks. Maybe you have to throw in a first. Maybe you don't because Portland just wants to get off of that money.
Yeah, the 4 years
for Jerami Grant. Like maybe you don't have to pay them anything to do that. What are you more interested in? The Jerami Grant by himself or Jerami Grant with Thybulle, but you have to give up Tim, Josh, and Maxey, and maybe picks?
I think the bigger deal is the one that I'm more interested in, and maybe that might be me versus the front, or maybe not even the front office of the coaching staff, because the coaching staff, one thing we know, they believe in Maxi Kleber to a great degree. They believe in his IQ, they believe in his abilities, but I think one of the things we saw, one of the potential, downfalls of Maxi Kleber, like we can already talk about he missed some games, right? And I don't know what to do with like labeling him hurt guy. I don't know what we want to do there, right? But the seeming cautiousness that he has to put up shots when he comes back from these injuries is the concerning thing for me, because he is very much a veteran on this team. He's very much a veteran just in any way that you try and cut it in this league. And it feels like you should not have to put a battery in his back to get him to do the things that you need, right? And look, I also want to be very fair. He was dealing with a shoulder injury. That's why he missed times in the postseason, right? And look, I can't tell you what that did to affect his shot and his confidence in his shot, right? But ultimately, if you're on the court, we're really not trying to hear that. And it might be unfair, but it's kind of how this goes. If you're on the floor, you need to get up these shots. And I think that's one of the toughest part. It's not even like whether he's making or missing. It feels like if you're on the floor, if you're going to be I don't know if deterrent is the right word, if you're gonna, cause that level of gravity because people respect your shot, you got to put it up. And you saw teams be willing to go away from that. And so with all of those things being the case, like I'm okay with moving on from Maxi Kleber, a little bit older player at this point as well, with all of those concerns, and bringing in a guy like Matisse Thybulle, who is a lot younger and does some of those things for you as well.
The perception is wild because Maxi's only 2 years older than Jerami Grant.
Oh yeah, no, of course.
Right, which is like a weird thing to think about, but you have to, if you're going to consider this type of trade, you go, oh, why would the Mavs not do that? You are probably losing Derrick Jones Jr. plus Josh Green plus Maxi plus Tim for Grant and Thybulle. That'd be 2 rotation players for 3.5 with Tim. Like, I don't know what you count Tim as at one point. So something to think about. That's definitely a trade that I would consider for sure. And I think that's an interesting one if you want to bring Jerami Grant in. He's definitely an interesting name that I'm watching, and it seems like the Mavericks are watching too.
But one of the things you talk about when you talk about like the raw numbers of rotation players, there was definitely portions of time during this postseason, and I'm trying to be very careful because, look, this is a postseason run in which you went to the NBA Finals, right? Yes. You don't want to do too much nitpicking to the point where you're ignoring that fact. But there are times where you looked up and you go, damn, if we could take a couple of these rotation players and somehow fuse them together into one player, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of the consolidation thing that you would be doing in that moment, trying to fuse a few of these guys together to get some of the better aspects of multiple players into one on your roster. And I think that is the motivating factor there.
Jerami Grant is an interesting name the Mavs could go after. It seems like the Mavs are interested in him, and there's an opportunity there for them to make a big move that helps fix some of those issues that you just mentioned that we just talked about. Next player we'll talk about, Tobias Harris. Should the Mavs be interested in him? No. Tell you why coming up.
You don't believe you shouldn't be here.
Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors to change everything you need. They have everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, like superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, bunch of things like that. They have over 122 million parts to choose from for your number one ride or die. Your car, truck, SUV, Suburban, 15-passenger van, whatever you got. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with that eBay Guaranteed Fit, you know that your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash, baby. With all the parts that you need at the prices that you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, part of the Raccoon Squad, listening every day. Appreciate each and every one of you for checking out the show. We have a daily 24/7 stream on Locked On Sports Dallas. Go check out all the shows there. Locked On Sports Dallas on YouTube and the Amazon Fire TV. We're here with Reggie Adetula talking about the Mavs offseason. We just talked about Jerami Grant, a potential trade the Mavs could make there to help their team. Tobias Harris also is rumored to join the Dallas Mavericks. According to NBA insider Chris Haynes, the Mavs are expected to be among teams interested in free agent forward from the Philadelphia 76ers, Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris is an unrestricted free agent. He made $39 million last year. Insane deal. Crazier deal than Jerami Grant's was, for sure. The last 5 seasons, he averaged 17.5 points, 6.5 rebounds, 3 assists, shot 37% from 3 with the Sixers. Last season alone, he scored 17 points on just 13.5 shots. He shot really great in like that short mid-range, which is kind of something the Mavs really need to add a little bit. Only 4 players scored more points on less shots. You want to like try and take a guess on who these guys are?
Oh God, I have no idea.
One of them was a Cav and is now a Jazz.
Oh, is it Lowry?
No.
Unless is it Colin Sexton?
Colin Sexton is one. One of them is probably going to leave the Miami.
Colin Sexton's been really good recently.
One of them is probably going to leave the Miami Heat this summer.
Wait, who's leaving Miami? Who? Jimmy
Butler. 4 players that have scored more points on less shots than what Tobias did last year. One of them, the Mavs
Jimmy.
Colin Sexton, Jimmy Butler. One of them is Mavs just lost to in the NBA Finals.
Was that is that Derek White?
No, taller.
Is it taller? Horford?
No, taller.
Oh, KP.
Porzingis. And the last one racks up a bunch of fake assists.
Oh God, what am I doing here?
Slightly would get this one.
Slightly would get this here. Who am I?
For
missing?
the Kings, Domantas Sabonis is the other one. Only 4 players averaged more points on less shots per game. Tobias Harris actually had like a pretty efficiently scoring, like for however many shots he takes, which I feel like is interesting. The problem is he averaged 17 points a game in the regular season, went down to 9 points a game in the playoffs. I mean, just really fell off, and you could tell that this pairing between the Sixers and Tobias Harris was just done, and Sixers fans were just done with him by the end of all this. Initial thoughts on Tobias Harris as a player?
It's probably not entirely fair, but my knock on Tobias Harris has been this, right? Tobias Harris strikes me as a player that if you need 7, he'll get you 15. You need 25, he'll get you 15, right? Like that's what Tobias feels like to me. It's just like circumstances raise up. And I mean, I think that can be highlighted in some ways, right? Again, the Sixers situation as it was, particularly without Embiid for a little bit, made that kind of tough. But yeah, there's something about him as a player throughout his career that made it feel like when you needed him in big time situations, he did not really give you what you were expecting, right? And that feels very much like what is on the job description of what you were looking for the Mavericks is, hey, we know we had a team that was pretty good, but when the moments were big, we had role players that, did not quite give you exactly what you were looking for. Adding another guy that maybe fits in that profile, not exactly what you're trying to do. And I understand that that's a lot more, a lot more of that is narrative than it is like statistical. However, like it feels spiritually true. And I feels like that's probably not where you need to be going as the Mavericks right now.
Yeah, the thing with both a Tobias Harris and a Jerami Grant, at least with Jerami Grant, we've seen him in a context with the Nuggets in 2020, which is 4 years ago now at this point. We've at least seen him play some good defense, play good perimeter defense, guard guys, things like that. We have not seen this with Tobias Harris. And if the Mavs are going to make a move for one of these two guys, they command so much money that you'll have to lose Dereck Jones Jr., which means then all of a sudden your point of attack defense gets probably worse because you're going from Dereck Jones Jr. to these guys. And I don't think that these guys are better point of attack defenders than Dereck Jones Jr. is. And so then all of a sudden, a thing that you consider a weakness right now, or at least a weakness compared to the finals team you just played, right, which is one of the greatest assembled rosters we've seen, really. And now you have to compare yourself to the Thunder, who just got Alex Caruso, which is a tough thing too. That the West is only going to get better each year. So now a weakness that you thought, a point of attack defense, is getting worse, which I think that is one thing that we talked about in our offseason overview, is that you just can't take a step back. This team cannot take a step backwards with this roster. And I think with Tobias Harris, I think you would take a step back. Maybe you get a little bit better there's a little bit more shot creation, a little bit more shooting. The corner shots would be there for him. He actually didn't shoot that well in corner shots necessarily. He wasn't playing with a playmaker like Luka. Like, we can throw that out there. He was playing a weird situation with Embiid out for a bunch of games. But the fact that he's just been inconsistent, and I don't think that the Mavs, I don't think that he fixes what the Mavs will bring in. So the answer to the question that I asked about Jerami Grant, like what problems does he solve? There's less problems that he solved for the Mavs then. He hasn't shot as well from three and hasn't taken as many threes as Jerami Grant too, which is something that's interesting. He's not like a knockdown 3-point shooter. And I also think it's probably impossible CBA wise and like functionally for them to get him because he's an unrestricted free agent. And for the Mavs to get him, I don't think you can get him in a sign and trade, because if you get it right now, the Mavs are just barely under that first apron, which is a level of the luxury tax. These complicated terms where you're like, there's the luxury tax, then there's the first apron, the second apron. The second apron is the boogeyman. That's the one that people are worried about with all the different restrictions of draft picks and can't trade multiple players at once and all that kind of stuff. The first apron, there are some restrictions to it, and you just don't want to get too far into it. If the Mavs tried to trade for Tobias Harris, they would get hard capped at the first apron if they did some kind of sign and trade. And so it's possible. There's probably a way to do it. Again, I don't know if I want to do the math to try and figure it all out how to do it, but it's difficult, and it would probably limit you in how you would make your roster. And so to me, I'm out on a Tobias Harris because of that, and because I don't think he answers enough questions to go to those lengths to try and bring in a guy like that.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like you'd be doing it for name value, which feels very evident that this front office is not as concerned with, right? You go and you bring Dante Exum back, Derek Jones Jr. Like, and I'm not trying to say
score.
that he can't play, right?
At least he would be a clear. He would be. The one positive. He would be a clear-cut third scorer. Okay.
Yes.
We've got that. We've answered that question now. Would he be that much better than Tim Hardaway?
Okay. All right.
Tim Hardaway averaged like 14 points a game, 17 points a game.
I mean, look, I hear what you're saying. Like, he feels again like when is he doing his scoring as opposed to like what is the scoring question?
He went down 9 points a game in the playoffs, but he would at least be that. But I just don't think he answers enough questions. That's my thing. I'm gonna stick with that.
I think you're right in that regard, right? Like I agree. I think we get there in different ways, but we're in the same place.
Was I meaner?
No, I don't know. I think I think I might have been meaner because I was like, he's just never gonna get you what you need.
just can't fulfill it. Coming up, hopefully the Mavs can get what they need because they need to trade Tim Hardaway Jr. and re-sign Dereck Jones Jr. We'll talk about that and some things Nico Harrison said. We'll also talk about Bronny James and more. Get into all that coming up.
You don't believe you shouldn't be here.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook has all kinds of props and odds that you can use to get in on the action and bet on sports. We love sports. I don't care who knows. We don't want them to stop. As the finals have wound down now, we're all sad that they're over. Sports aren't sportsing like I want them. That's the exact copy. Sports aren't sportsing like I love that. FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. There's all kinds of stuff you could do you could do WNBA. I was watching some Fever and some Sky today. You could do there's a whole Caitlin Clark tab. Caitlin Rookie of the Year, Caitlin Clark minus 950, or the field is plus 540. I don't know. Angel Reese had a hell of a game against the Fever in that one today. To make the playoffs, our Dallas Wings to make the playoffs are plus 480. That doesn't seem like enough odds. That should be much higher for our struggling Dallas Wings. All kinds of stuff you can do on FanDuel. And so head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon and start making the most out of your summer. And there are bonus boosts or boosts like that daily. That's right. There's something for everyone. FanDuel.com/lockedon.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
I'm not playing. I'm watching, just like you guys.
Intentional, but oh so great. Unintentional, but very, very timely. That's about us in the CBA. By the way.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not
Absolutely.
playing. I'm watching, just like you guys.
Slightly tweeted something over the weekend. He was doing a stream for Bleacher Report, and they wanted him to come up with a bunch of trades, and he's like, "I think I'm washed, guys. I can't figure out great trades for the trade machine." And I said, the problem is, and this is a problem that probably a lot of you listening have now. It's become too complicated and you know too much. You know too much and it's less fun. It used to be more fun when it's like, all right, all you have to do is match salaries. Now, there are certain teams that can't trade with other teams because of they're hard capped. Yeah. And so you're like, okay, now all of a sudden teams can't trade with this team or this team. And it's just, there's so many different rules on it. Even Bobby Marks and Zach Lowe were doing their show. And like Bobby Marks was an assistant GM. And even he is like, yeah, I don't think they can do that. He starts going through all the different machinations of it. And so we'll just follow along and we'll talk about the rumors and we'll talk about the things that are with it, but we're going to get stuff wrong. And I'll bring on CBA Mavs probably, and we'll talk about some of the things that the Mavs can do. And he knows this stuff better than us. But one rumor I do know about is that Mark Stein reports the league sources say the Mavericks will probably resume their long-running search for a trade partner to take Tim Hardaway Jr. on. Your thoughts on the Mavs finally, or at least getting Tim Hardaway Jr. off the books?
I mean, it's a long time coming, right? Like I think Tim McMahon put it this way: as soon as the ink was dry on the deal that he has right now, they've been looking to ship him, right? Like they have been trying to every offseason. Are we not used to this, right? They are trying to send Tim Hardaway Jr. out. In fact, you recall during a media day to start the season this year.
Yes.
It was very evident that he did not expect to be back here. Like we all know what it is. Ultimately, the thing that had made it more difficult is that it seemed like teams were not biting because I guess maybe they did not value him enough as a player with the framework of his contract. Well, now his contract goes from a deterrent to a plus, right? He becomes an expiring contract. And now it's a lot more palatable, especially if you have like a player making a whole bunch of money on a 3+1, right? Like, those types of things get
Jerami Grant.
Exactly, right? If you have money that you maybe regret and you're trying to get off your books, as opposed to having to wait out the deal, we can take on this Tim Hardaway Jr. and get that done this year. And so I think that becomes a lot more palatable for other teams. And that really was where it was, right? Because it always takes two to tango. The Mavs were interested, but you needed someone else. And I think that there's going to be more, there's going to be more suitors in that regard. And then, you could free Tim to his destiny.
Tim also wants to be freed, according to his dad. His dad has come by his side many times.
What?
At least
Tim Hardaway Sr. talking? I am shocked.
Come to his aid. And on Instagram, someone commented they shipping him out after the season. And Tim's dad, Tim Hardaway Sr., the Hall of Famer, says, yes, they are. And we want to have a new opportunity to shine. We didn't like what happened. We are ready to go. They've been ready to go. We've known this. This is not new, but we didn't like what happened. Listen, we didn't like what happened. What do you mean you didn't like what happened? What happened? He stopped playing good. I'll go incorrect grammar on that one just to make the point, because it wasn't that he just got benched for no damn reason. He was not playing well. We all saw it after the trade. He didn't seem like he was comfortable. I talked about it on this show several times. He didn't look comfortable after the trades. Couldn't figure out his role. Couldn't figure out how to come off the bench and figure out his role after that. He struggled, and then when they put him in the games, he struggled. He had that one good game, game 2 against OKC in the playoffs. Yeah. That was great. And then he hit those 5 threes in the finals, those 5 threes when it was garbage. When it was garbage time, when there was no pressure on at all. So you had one real playoff moment. It's not like he just got benched for nothing at all. He's got some issues he's got to work with his game. You couldn't trust him with the ball in his hands. You couldn't trust him on defense. I mean, those are 2 key things. You can't turn the ball over, or you can't make dumb mistakes on offense in transition or whatever. And you have to be able to defend comfortably in your spot. And there were guys that were doing that at a better place. They put Jaden Hardy out there instead of him. You think that just happened? You think Kid was like, you know what? I'd rather put Jaden Hardy out there than Tim Hardaway Jr. And just because I want to spite him. It's like, come on.
I mean, it might be politics, it's always politics. No. I mean, you're absolutely right. And particularly in this situation where defensively, you already have 2 dudes that take precedent, that have their defensive, I guess, struggles, for lack of a better term. It can't also be you, right? And so maybe in a different circumstance that looks a little bit better. But no, you're right. Like this was all understandable within that role. But I think it all points back to this is not even like this is not a one postseason run thing. This is not a one season thing. This is an accumulation of a long period of time where it's been made, just so apparent that these 2 parties need to be in separate places. And so finally it looks like the stars are aligning to where maybe you can make that happen. And it seems like that would be the best thing for everybody involved, I imagine.
Time to go.
Yeah.
There is somebody. So Mavs Nation on Instagram posted this like graphic with the Tim Hardaway Sr. quote. And there's a Celtics report account that says, you guys have been holding him back. I agree with his dad. Yeah, I'm sure.
That's right. Yeah.
It's Celtics fan things.
They wanted to play 40 minutes a game in the playoffs, yeah. I'm sure.
Should have played him more. Last thing we'll talk about. Let's talk about Bronny James. I talked about it with your boy Kevin from the former Get Right duo. Jonathan Givony of ESPN said there are other teams that love Bronny. For example, Minnesota, Dallas, Toronto. He said Nico Harrison is like an uncle to Bronny James. What was your reaction when you heard that about Bronny James? LeBron James' son, by the way, if you haven't.
It's like, yeah, LeBron been with Nike for a long time. I bet he is like an uncle. I bet Nico has had plenty of dinners over there. What that got to do with this basketball team?
Do you see that video that I quote tweeted? It was Kobe and Anthony Davis from like the 2016 Olympics.
Oh, I missed it.
It's like real young Anthony Davis where he's got the brow is prominent and Kobe is like joking with him about his sunglasses, his brow, and like they're joking back and forth, and then you just see Nico Harrison sitting between the 2 of them, just like hanging out there. I mean, he's been around. Like he has been around a lot of these guys.
It's one of the benefits of Nico Harrison, right?
Yes.
Is that you have a relationship with players in this league. What thing?
This is why you bring in Nico.
This is why. My bad. That's my bad. I'm slacking on my paper. All right, run it back.
Come on. That's your thing.
This is why you bring in Nico Harrison, right? He has the relationships in the league, and he knows how to identify talent, right? And so, like, if sincerely he has identified Bronny James as a talent, cool. because also he's smarter than the rest of us, right? Like maybe he's identifying talent for the Texas Legends because everybody seems to indicate that Bronny James is not ready to be a pro right now. And he like the size is small, like he has the opportunity to develop, right? And a 6'1" dude who is not necessarily a scoring guard, who's like maybe defensively inclined. Like, all right, you want to get on here on your Tony Allen, but like it's going to take some time to find yourself in that context. And so, sure, right? Like maybe this is drumming up, a level of interest. Maybe they are interested. I don't think this is something that we, the people on the outside, the people that are really more concerned with like the more instantaneous results with the Mavericks should really care about, right? If they use that late second round pick on him, cool. Slide him onto the roster. Go ahead and get your years with the G League and work yourself in development, and we'll talk to you in a couple of years when you're ready to provide for this team. But like this, it's salacious because his name is Bronny James. If his name his name was James Brown, right? Like, first of all, we'd be like, "Yo, are you related?"
He's
but
back.
Secondly, right, like say, right, wait, what's happening there? But other than that, we would just be like, "Oh, that's a cool name." But like, okay, like it's the context of LeBron, who I don't think is coming here, right? Like, and if you're out of that, then it's just, hey, this is an undersized player that maybe has some potential that the GM likes. When does that ever matter to us?
LeBron James, LeBron James, LeBron James, LeBron James, LeBron.
You will see. No, that's why you draft him. You draft him so that Nick Angstadt has the opportunity to use that drop more often.
Every single day.
LeBron James, LeBron James.
You have to like insert a junior in there though.
Rich Paul, the agent for LeBron and also the agent for Bronny James.
Sure.
On ESPN on Wednesday said LeBron is off the idea of having to play with Bronny. If he does, he does. If he doesn't, he doesn't. So that changes the calculus there. It's not just an all-out play. Now he's opened it up for other teams to take Bronny because they're like, all right, we may take Bronny, but I don't think we'll get LeBron James, and I don't think we could bring him in. So he's opening it up.
I mean, what choice did he have? What if if Bronny had gotten drafted somewhere else? You think
He's
LeBron would
LeBron
like,
James.
I have to go?
He is LeBron James. He has made the most famous choice ever made in NBA history. They called it the decision. Do you remember this?
I might have recalled it. Yes.
He's always making his choice. He's always got one.
So you telling me that, let's see, what's the maximum hilarity?
What if
here?
I told you?
If you telling me that the Washington Wizards all of a sudden are like, we are the ones to select LeBron James Jr., that Bron is like, well, clear out, guys. We playing in the nation's capital. No.
Well, I'm telling you that now LeBron has maybe heard back from some of those teams that may do that. That could be the Wizards or somebody else, and is like, you know what? Never mind, y'all.
Right. And then this is where we get back to, like, I understand that we want to start doing the thing. LeBron loves Luka. It's one of his favorite players. And he's played with Kyrie. It's just, this is when we get back to the salary cap is not going to allow that to happen. If this does not have to be more than it is. LeBron James Jr., Bronny James, nice little prospect, right? Not ready to contribute right now. Cool. Whatever that is. Whatever you want to do with that, that's fine. That's all I'm willing to engage with, Nick. That's all I'm willing to engage with.
This quote came out on Wednesday, so I guess it was it before or after the Kendrick concert where LeBron goes to the Kendrick concert and is like, you know what? I don't think I want to leave Los Angeles. I think this is good.
Surprised. I'm shocked.
I think I don't want to do this. I think I don't want to go to Portland or Washington or whoever, Oklahoma City.
Good.
I think I'm good. I think we're good here now, too. We've talked about the reasons why you could go get Jerami Grant, talked about Tobias Harris, talked about all that. Guys, we'll be back with more. I'll have Richard Stamen, Mavs draft tomorrow, to talk about the draft prospects the Mavs could be looking at, or guys that the Mavs should maybe trade for. We'll have Lauren Gunn to talk trades, to have some actual fun with this. We'll talk about that and more. Guys, thanks for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom!